this is what the builder looks like. Underneath the build tab, before we were playing on the capture tab, now we're in the build tab. This is where I could come in and change and do a bunch of different settings here. The first thing I want to point out up here is you have a drop down here. It basically says barcode. I also have one that says DPM, and I have one that says DPM and barcode. So what we wanted to do is create the best experience, right? So by default, we're assuming you're not reading DPM. So DPM barcode decoding takes extra processing power, takes extra algorithm time. So we wanted to be able to shut that off, right? So if I'm only doing paper labels or reading paper labels, I want to select the barcode tool, right? Once I start knowing, or I know I want to do DPM, I would select the DPM mode. When using that mode, we shut off the 1D algorithms, right? So to try to make the 2D algorithms and the DPM algorithms work the fastest. So that's what that particular mode is, the DPM. We know that sometimes people need to read DPM codes as well as 1D barcodes. So we created the DPM and barcode tab. So there's 3 different settings for you, 3 flavors. You get to pick which one you want. They all basically allow you to do some different things. And you'll see different performance on it. So general rule of thumb here. If you're only reading 1D and 2D paper labels, you don't need the DPM algorithm, run the barcode, right? If you're reading DPM and you're not reading any other kind of barcode, especially 2D DPM, you'll select the DPM code. And if you want to do both, you'll select the DPM and barcode. So that's what that dropdown does. There was some confusion with that early on where we would get people saying, hey, I can't read this barcode. It's because it was a DPM code and you didn't have the dropdown wasn't done well. So we went back and kind of rehashed some of that. The first item here, this is the settings tab, right? So this is where you come in and you start configuring the device. Under the settings tab is where the first thing you have is a timeout. This is how long the algorithm or how long the decode time you want to try is, right? So currently this particular example is reading like 23 milliseconds. So 2 seconds is a long time. So if I have an application that's high speed or I'm using one of the continuous trigger modes, this is the first place I want to come in here and adjust those particular times, right? So if I'm reading at 5 milliseconds at code 128, my belt's going 600 feet per minute, I could set this timeout to 10 milliseconds. That way I'm only trying for 10 milliseconds at a time to read that code. And once I don't read it, I throw that out and grab the next frame. So this is how you could read and do some of those high speed applications. In those continuous modes, you'll see decode times in the sub 10 millisecond range. So that's where you could come in here and adjust and play with some of those. The next setting down is an inverse 1D, right? So obviously this is black on white. If you have white on black, you could simply select that and activate those. You have auto detect, right? So it's currently defaulted to regular. That gives you the speed performance. 90% of the barcodes that are out there are black and white, or black and white. So that's where you'd want to be able to set that. If you've seen demonstrations I've done in the past, we have what we call minimum coverage percentage. Again, this is a neat story. Basically, we went out and talked to everybody, and here's a barcode up here at the top. We asked them, should this read, right? So the barcode's falling outside of my region of interest. Half of you said, yes, this should read, and the other half said, no, that shouldn't read. So to make everybody happy, we created the minimum coverage percentage, where I click this box here. Now it'll read the barcode even though it falls outside the region of interest. If I don't want that to happen, I simply click it again. You'll see it would not pass that barcode or read that barcode. So that's one of those features that was driven specifically from feedback from the field. We have the ability to do barcode match string. So if I click on this here, there's 2 different ways you could do it. Let me go ahead and open up my field of view back here. Shut that off real quick. I'll turn it back on. I have a barcode. I could click this button to get the last decode. It grabs this decode data. Again, feedback from the field. Thank you very much. It puts that data in here, and it allows me to do a no read string or some kind of a regex command, right? So if I click on this, the regex is basically a string that allows me to come in here and say, hey, I only want to look for the S, right? Things that begin with the S. I only want to look for those types of settings. If I click on that box, it's a way of doing formatting and being able to see what I want to do there. So you could say, hey, I only look for the one that begins with D. I would create a regex command that does that. So that's where that pops up, and that's where you're able to do that. This is where you also be able to enable barcode quality metrics. So if you're trying to do a grade or reading on the barcode, this is where you'll be able to do that. And then you also have this exhaustive 2D attempt. So if you have really, really hard to read 2D codes and you have time to read them, this is a super mode we have that really just allows this thing to really churn and burn to get some of those hard to read 2D codes taken care of and done.